In this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between a biblical woman and a modern woman, particularly when it comes to the area of accountability. But first, let's define what I mean by this word accountability. I'm talking about one's ability to accept the effects that are produced by one's own actions, whether good or bad. Every choice we make has a consequence to it. With that in mind, as men, we have to take accountability for ourselves and the choices we are making by tolerating certain women. Thus, my point in this video is not to blame women for the hard things going on in our lives. Rather, the point here is to give men the tools to identify the right women and avoid the wrong women. And on a quick side note, that is one of the main differences I hope to create between my content and the red pill or MAGTOW movements. While I do think there are huge problems with modern women, and some of these problems are rightly highlighted by red pill and MAGTOW followers, I'm not claiming there are zero biblical women left like many of these worldly guys are claiming. These men lack accountability just as much as these worldly women I'm talking about. Anyone who blames another person for their own choices lacks accountability. With all that said, a biblical woman will try to obey the Lord because she will be taking accountability for herself. A worldly woman, however, wants to make bad choices but not be judged for it. So, to really see these differences, I'm going to talk about 4 areas of accountability and how godly women act compared to worldly women. Number 1, sexual accountability. A modern woman wants to sleep around in her 20s and find Prince Charming in her 30s. She doesn't want to hear that a godly man will be looking for a woman who hasn't slept around with a bunch of men in her past. She wants to claim that men are being too judgmental and that her sexual past shouldn't matter at all. Now, what I just said will probably be cheered by the worldly men watching this. So let me now offend them too. A woman who did commit a lot of sexual sin in her past can still become a godly wife to a godly man one day. The difference between these women, however, is that they will take accountability for the mistakes they have made. First off, she will repent in word and deed. She confesses her sins to God, knowing that Jesus' blood is powerful enough to make her pure. However, she will also repent in action, refusing to sleep around anymore. She will go years without sleeping with a man if that's what it takes to meet her future husband. Ideally, however, a godly woman will learn these lessons about sexual accountability before going down that road of sexual sin. However, if you as a man want one of these women who's not sleeping around, just know that she will also be only looking for a man who is taking sexual accountability for himself too. Number 2, verbal accountability. Modern women feel like they can say anything to a man without there being any long-lasting damage to the relationship. However, if you were to say the exact same thing to her that she just said to you, she would demonize you forever and tell everyone that you are verbally abusive. A godly woman, however, takes accountability for her words. This doesn't mean she will always say the perfect thing and never hurt you with her words. However, she will always take accountability for her own sins. She will repent to God and to you, seeking to make it right by apologizing and growing so she doesn't keep making the same mistakes. This is why you need to date a woman for a good amount of time before marrying her. You want to see how she argues. Some women have a switch that makes them say things you could never imagine them saying. If you want a godly woman, make sure she is taking accountability for what she says to you and how she says it. Number 3, financial accountability. Modern women want equal outcomes. Godly women want equal opportunities. In other words, modern women want to work less hours and choose less lucrative career paths and yet make the same amount of money as men who are choosing to work longer hours and have chosen more lucrative careers. Also, modern women want men to share the equal burden of taking care of the home life while also not be expected to equally contribute financially by working as much as the man works. A godly woman, however, just wants to be treated fairly in the workplace. If she works as long as a man and does as good a job as a man, she expects to be paid the same as a man. which is exactly right. Additionally, a godly woman knows the value she brings to the household is just as important as the financial benefits her husband brings in through working. Rather than needing her husband to do just as many chores as her, she will do what she can at home because she will understand her value is just as immense as her husband's, but it's just being expressed in a different way. And number 4, spiritual accountability. A worldly woman hates the idea of spiritual authority. She doesn't want to be under any man's authority in any area of her life, which is why she gets extremely triggered when the Bible talks about things like a wife's submission and male leadership in the church. A godly woman, however, values the spiritual authority of her husband and the male leadership in the church. She understands that the godly men in her life are called to die for her well-being. Thus, she is not entitled by this fact, but chooses to show gratitude and respect for her husband and the other men leading in the church. Okay, men, I talked about women being accountable in this video. Now, here's a video where I challenge you to take more accountability for yourself. This video is called 5 Reasons Many Christian Women Are Not Attracted to Christian Men. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. I hope this was helpful. Until next time, God bless.